and advised Prime Minister Thatcher on matters of scientific and domestic policy. Now, we have in this country one person in federal parliament, in the upper house, who's got science qualifications, and that is Senator Fielding. And in the lower house, we've got one person with scientific qualifications, Dr. Dennis Jensen from the seat of Tangi in Western Australia. That's all we've got. Our science policy advisors in this country are advocates. They are not providing independent advice. He has also been very active in business and has a business administration company, a public administration company, and Sydney has disappointed us. We only have 1,000 people here. Last year he spoke to 100,000 people on Labor Day in the US. He spoke to 15,000 people at a Tea Party rally in Texas last year. And he has created a game called Eternity, a mathematical game. We're dealing with a mathematician here. And this mathematical game, he threw out the challenge. If you can solve this problem, you get £1 million. And it was solved. And a man of his word, he paid up £1 million. But he got smart, and he invented a second mathematical game called Eternity 2. So smart that if you can solve it, there's a £2 million prize. So Lord Monckton is an eminent scholar, a man who stands up in public and with an enormous amount of knowledge supports his views, and I ask you to welcome Viscount Monckton of Branchland.
Ladies and gentlemen, good day, Australia. After that magnificent introduction by Ian Plimer, I just can't wait to hear what I'm going to say. But just in case any of you have to leave early, here is my message. I hope that's clear. Now, I can't tell you what a pleasure it is to hear somebody in an Australian accent introducing the Viscount Monckton of Branchland. Because in Scotland, there's a rather unfortunate accident that happens when they pronounce my title. Will yous welcome the vacant Monckton? So the vacant Monckton is really pleased to be here among you all today. And I do need to thank a lot of people who have made it possible before I do anything else. I want to thank Alan Jones for bringing his fan club. I first came across Alan when he was very kind enough to allow me to go on his wonderful coast-to-coast 70 stations radio network to talk about the Copenhagen Treaty, which I'll be talking about a bit later on tonight. And the coverage from Australia was extraordinary. I had emails from all over the place. And so when he said he was going to bring his fan club with him tonight, and here you all are, I was thrilled. But I also want to thank Professor Plimer for his very generous introduction, to congratulate him on the enormous success on 3 continents of his excellent book, Heaven and Earth. If you haven't got a copy yet, it is on sale outside at a very unreasonable price. And I'm particularly honoured that I should be allowed to follow and be introduced by one of the most distinguished scholars and professors in the field of climate today. So you really have done me a favour by being here, and I thank you. I also want to thank very much 2 retired engineers from Noosa who dug deep into their own pockets, putting their houses even on the line, so that I could come here to talk to you today in Australia. And that's John Smead and Kay Smith. I want to hear very loud noises. These 2 gallant gentlemen love their country. They were frightened at what they heard that might happen if this ETS scheme went through. They decided the best way to do something about it was to recruit help from eminent professors and from not so eminent shop-worn peers of the realm. And they decided that even if nobody else would pay, they would pay whatever it cost to get me here. Now, I didn't hear a loud enough appreciation for that, so let's put it on. So, I'm now closing by just drawing a moral conclusion from this. Now, I didn't know till I got here that there is a new kid on block who apparently there's a new meaning for the word corrupt. I came across this from the farmers. They have a new word for it. But here he is. And he says that this is the defining moral issue of our generation, this climate thing. We've got to save the planet. He's got to save you from yourselves by taxation, by the ETS, etc. Now, I'm not making a political point here because until very recently the opposition party was saying the same. However, if you exaggerate beyond reason, having simply made up a climate scare to frighten the people, and even in schools to frighten and terrify children, that is a moral issue. If you say, I am going to run the IPCC, and at the same time I'm going to run a company which files false accounts, that is a moral issue. If you say, I am going to run the IPCC and also run a company that is tendering for UN contracts, that is a moral issue. If I take the data and I tamper with it so as to make it look as though there has been 2 Celsius degrees of warming in Darwin when there hasn't been any in the last 100 years, that is a moral issue. But the worst moral issue is that if you get together with other nations, grandstanding round the world with your 114 people on their junket to Copenhagen, and at no point anywhere during that conference does anyone discuss the plight of the billions who have died of starvation because of the biofuel scam that arose out of the global warming scare you are talking about, that is a moral issue. Is Australia. It is a wonderful country. It is a democracy, young and free. Australia, the friend to all the Pacific nations round about. The friend to everyone round the world. The friend to those who, when we were in a hard place in the Second World War, who did we know we could turn to without even thinking? Australia. Who did America know that she could turn to when the people of South Korea were being overrun by alien forces of an alien tyranny from the north? Australia. Who did America know she could turn to again when more alien forces in the north invaded Vietnam? Australia. Who did we know we could turn to, both we and America, when Saddam Hussein invaded Kuwait and threatened ultimately to take over all the world's oil fields? Australia. Your young men and women have been willing and able and ready and capable at any time when the world has asked. And I'm going to ask you now whether you, the people of this great nation, will rise once again to the challenge of helping us out here. Because if you, with that great common sense, that great sense of not allowing the bullshit to prevail, that has brought you out here tonight, and you have had the courage to come here, even though the environment is hostile to this point, will you come to office? And will you look into the eyes, the hopeful, hopeless eyes, of those who are starving as a result of the lunatic policies of the governments of the world? And will you have the love in your hearts to say enough is enough?